tears all around, heartbreak mental reunions, and flashback revelations. The Passage, Season 1, Episode 7, Review and Breakdown. Hey y'all, it's your Twisted Girl next door here, and as you can see, probably, from the look of the background, I am not in my usual space. Fun fact of behind the scenes of the Twisted Girl TV, I am actually at my mom's house in Jersey, and so I tried to find a spot to review the things we do to review. On the road, YouTubing it up, and so we're just gonna push through. We're just gonna power through. Okay, so I'm doing a review of Season 1, Episode 7 of The Passage. The way this goes, if you're new here, is that I do the happenings, as in what happened in the episode, ship talk, because I love talking about my ships. Best line, as in my favorite line in the episode. Predictions, because even if I'm wrong, I want to take a guess. And finally, because this series is based off of the best-selling novel trilogy, I will do book comparisons as well. Okay, so overall, this episode, you are like the sun, which, I like that they're keeping with the theme of naming each episode from one of the coolest lines they have in each episode, which this was one of the coolest lines, although I picked a different line for the favorite line of this video. I thought that this episode I really appreciated the heartfelt moments. Like, the heartfelt moments were heartfelt, and it worked in the sense of, what we've been building up with some of these characters. But I will also say, I honestly think this might have been the weakest one of all the episodes thus far. Only because nothing happened. Like, seriously, nothing really happened. Like, we didn't really find out much in terms of the overall plot line. And everything kind of was at a standstill. Like, it was weird. We had this huge thing that happened and has been happening for the past couple episodes. And then this episode, it seemed like everything just stood still. Brad escapes being kidnapped. Alright, so Brad and Lila basically get kidnapped. They don't make it back to Project Noah because shady as everything get out Gilder basically made it so that he was going to off Brad in order to have full control over Amy. So what we dealt with was Brad and Lila basically getting kidnapped together in the trunk of the car. And in the mix of that, we got a whole bunch of flashbacks to finally reveal how, first of all, Brad ended up getting into Project Noah, how he came around to being part of Project Noah, and also how his daughter died and what that did to him and Lila's relationship. And then towards the end of that plot line, he makes it back to Project Noah, him and Lila. And so at the end of it, they're trying to basically wake Amy up. Also, Clark Richards seems to be on their side now, as we saw the reveal or the revelation that him and Brad were always besties and really, really close, and that he was the one that got him into Project Noah as a way to try to help him out of his depression. So this plot line was decent enough. I mean, this is the thing. I appreciated us getting the actual visual of how Brad's daughter died and what that did to him. The thing is, though, it's not like that was a secret throughout this whole season. Pretty much we got that gist of it, that something bad happened to his daughter. We didn't exactly know what happened to his daughter, but we know something bad happened to her. And because of that, he kind of had this sort of transference of wanting to make sure that nothing bad happens to Amy. And so, but we already knew that, right? So I feel like this episode was sort of maybe about him and Lila more than him and his daughter, or maybe just how he got to the point where he would go into a project that he didn't know a lot about in the first place. I'm not sure. I just felt like it drew home, the idea that he was in a very dark place after his daughter died, and how Amy is sort of his new redemption story in a way. But at the same time, I was kind of like, do we need these flashbacks exactly? Because it seemed like the main revelation was simply that he ended up killing his daughter's killer. Like, he kind of went John, Wick on it, and, and he killed he avenged his daughter's death. Okay, cool. So was that really a big revelation for the plot, though? You get what I'm saying? So I'm kind of like, okay, it was fine that we included that, but did we need it necessarily? I would say the biggest plot revelation in terms of maybe moving the story forward was the fact that we see that Clark is definitely on Brad's side. Amy seeing her mother and also kind of sensing that she can do mind stuff. Yeah, so Amy basically, gets a visit from Carter. So we see Carter again. Carter's all up in Amy's mind, kind of showing her that she can do mind stuff too, that she can go anywhere she wants when it comes to her mind. Amy being very afraid that she's going to become like the other virals when it comes to the situation, and she's scared. She doesn't know where Brad is. And, throughout this episode for Amy, we got the revelation when it came to her guilt about her mother. Now, I'm not going to say once again that this was somewhat repetitive, because we knew she was very sad about her mother, but we didn't know exactly the residual feelings of guilt that she had. So that got revealed. And so we also got to see that within her mind, she kind of got a chance to resolve that for herself, which was good. And I don't think they've totally driven it home whether or not the virals can just create scenarios and people in their minds that aren't real, or maybe they're tapping into something deeper and tapping into the essence of deceased people or something like that. Not too sure. They haven't really made that explicit just yet, but I'm guessing that was more so a figment of Amy's mind, her mother. But it was a very sweet moment. This was a very heartfelt moment. I got a little teary-eyed seeing it, just because the little actress that plays Amy is so good at what she does. And her moment with her mother was really poignant in the sense of just seeing how strong and vulnerable this character is at the same time, the character of Amy, which I appreciated. And I guess she had to do that. And what we got towards the end of that was Fanning at her mental door. Literally, I guess, or maybe figuratively, since it's mental. That's really where we got up to, because all that other stuff was more so, we saw in this particular case that Carter is very much still on the side of Amy. He believes Amy is the savior of what? I'm not sure, but he seems to believe she's the savior of something, and so he's basically trying to help her. And, he's not lined up with Fanning like the others are. I'm not sure if Fanning knows that Carter isn't lined up with him, but Carter definitely isn't. And so we also got a glimpse that Amy can potentially do other things with her powers. What those powers are extensively, we're not sure yet, but Carter kind of hinted at them. And yeah, at the end, she sort of faces off with Fanning, but we don't know in what capacity. Once again, an emotional moment for a character being able to kind of have that guilt. But once again, I don't know if this moved the plot forward, right? We did all of that to get to the point of Fanning at her door, where we probably could have made it so that the mother thing happened like halfway through, and then Fanning was at her door halfway through. But maybe in a way you could look at it as, Carter telling Amy that Fanning will use your weakness against you, that Amy was able to resolve that with her mother. So that's one less thing for Fanning to use against her. So if anything, that laid the groundwork for that. But other than that, it didn't really do much. Jonas and Nicole trying to somehow extract Fanning's blood out of Elizabeth, with Elizabeth having very little time left. Yeah, so Elizabeth chose death. I'll get a little bit more into that whole, Jonas and Elizabeth thing when I come to my ship talk. But in terms of the plot line, I feel what we got out of that was, one, it seems like the virals have to choose to become virals. That's what I'm getting. It doesn't really seem like it seems like they have a choice. Like Elizabeth pretty much got to choose, right? She could have chosen to become a viral and link with Fanning or something, or she could have chose death. And I guess Carter had the same choice, that he could have chose to die, but he chose to live. And I'm wondering if that's a thing for all of the virals, because when Winston was biting people last week, I don't know, did they get to choose in their mind, or did they just get made because they were like, I don't know, quick made virals? I'm not really sure. They're not really being explicit with that. Maybe they'll explain it a little bit more, because right now it's looking like Carter and Elizabeth both got to choose, and, Carter chose viral and Elizabeth chose death, but it seems like they get a choice in the end. So it's not like they automatically become virals. Project Noah gets a whole new leadership and more shady characters. Okay, so it seems as though Nicole pretty much got fired, but she's still, around the facility. Or more so, her access has been denied from Gilder. They talked to the Secretary of State, I'm guessing, and they seem to be trying to salvage it, or Gilder is, and he brought in this other character, Martinez. And Martinez looks super, super shady. And yeah, it seems like they're doing an overhaul of security and all that jazz. And so, yeah, it seems like there's another takeover happening as they try to salvage something, and they're trying to somehow defend themselves from being taken over by the virals. And we all know this probably won't work. So, yeah, basically what I'm getting is that this is still going to go to heck HE double hockey sticks in a handbasket, and I'm not trusting Martinez at all. Like, this guy comes in, he's like, yeah, and he just has this look about him. The actor is doing such a great job. I think I remember him from like One Life to Live or something. Pretty sure this actor was on One Life to Live. And so correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, let me know. But yes, he did a good job, because there's just this look about him where it's like he's not saying something. There's something he's not saying. And so I'm not completely convinced that things are in good hands. Not that I'm on the side of the government in this way at all. They really should be listening to Sykes, but it seems like they're going to try to do an overhaul. So it'll be interesting to see what the outcome of that is. But yeah, what I got from that is we got a new character, Martinez, and he is not to be trusted so far because he seems shady. Brad and Lila, they're still in love. Yes. But we knew that already, right? And they got a lot of problems to deal with. And it seems to me that, I don't know, like, Brad still loves her clearly, but I don't know, I just get this vibe. If they were really trying to be complex and nuanced when it came to storytelling and a little bit more bold, I think if this was that kind of show, and maybe it is, I don't think he'd choose to stay with her, even though they're still in love with her. Now, the easy route to go would be that they're trying to find their way back, and they just kind of find their way back. But one could argue that Brad is such a different character than he was before his daughter died, that as much as they may love each other, they may not be as compatible anymore. Like, Brad's at a place where he's willing to go at an extreme, bounds for certain things. And that's not the same person he was before their lives was shattered from losing their daughter. But I don't know, it looks like they might be going that tried and true route of them kind of making their way back to each other or something. And yeah, so they kind of worked it out this episode, and they seem to be kind of on the same page again. But I'm not super hot about the couple. I think they're fine. It's more like take them or leave them in a way, and Brad needs some love too. But I'm just also thinking there's a new world order about to happen, so I just don't know if that couple can stand the test of time of that. Jonas and Elizabeth. It was a really beautiful ending for them, supposedly, if Elizabeth is truly dead. It was wonderful that she picked Jonas in the end, even though that, it was her life that she had to choose, but she chose to go out on her own terms. And, Fanning was pretty much a third will. He was trying to will Elizabeth to love him in a way, in the sense of making it so she needed him. And that is such a manipulative, toxic way to love, in my opinion. And I think they were very obvious in the way they shaped that. So kudos to the writers for being able to display the toxicity of Fanning, even in his so-called pure love for Elizabeth. And, in contrast, how Elizabeth and Jonas was so much more, although they had their problems as well, it was a more genuine love. And in the end, she chose that, even though it meant sort of the end in her current state for herself. Babcock and Richards. I don't really want to give this much of a mention. I'm just going to say, because only reason why I mention it for this episode is because in the Fanning and Babcock very quick scene that they had where Babcock was somewhat doubting where Fanning was in terms of his plan, Babcock mentioned sort of offhandedly that she feels some type of way for Richards, and she hopes that this is just kind of a leftover from when she was human. I really hope they're not trying to push this as a romance. Like, it's not, I don't know, I feel like it doesn't work. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think you should have relationships that people can root for even if they shouldn't. You know those kind of couples where you're like, man, this coupling is so bad for each other, but they're so right, kind of a deal. I don't get that from Babcock and Richards. I honestly think Richards loves Nicole a lot deeper, and I think he genuinely respects and honors and cares for Nicole. And it's a little bit, like I said, if this show was a tad more nuanced when it came to taking chances of not going the tried and true route when it came to characters and plot lines, I would think that they might be more inclined to play up Clark's, love for Nicole and that complexity of the weirdness of what Babcock has done to his mind. And unfortunately, they've sort of dropped the ball on that, where they're just not exploring that so much. And so what happens is we get these little offhanded comments from Babcock, and I don't know what we're supposed to believe is actually happening, because I don't think they've had enough scenes and things for me to believe that she genuinely cares for this guy, and it's not more so along the lines of messing with him and being manipulative and trying to control him because she wants to get back at Sykes. That's not a coupling to root for or to really think it's a real coupling. Screw you and your weird mustache. You tell him, Amy. Yeah, I'm just going to keep going with Martinez is not to be trusted. That guy he gave off real shady vibes. And so I think he may be an ace in the hole for Fanning, because something's got to give. We're kind of coming to the season finale. So there's got to be, I'm thinking the end of the world is still happening. The question is how. Yeah, the main book comparison I would say when it comes to this episode is I want to focus on a little bit of Carter in a way. Once again, like, some episodes ago when it was a central Carter episode and we saw that he turned, I think they're keeping in the same vein of how the novel trilogy went, in the sense that Carter is not on Fanning's side. Carter is definitely doing his own thing and trying to help Amy. I do think that because this is happening before everything goes to crap, that they're playing up a bit more Carter and Amy's bond. Although I do think they do connect in the novel trilogy, and maybe they're playing that up a lot more for the TV series. But it's definitely keeping in the same vein of Carter is not on Fanning's side. And maybe he's somewhat playing a double agent in this. I know in the trilogy series, he sort of just kind of goes in his own mind and maybe, kind of tries to stay out of things and just not on Fanning and Babcock's side. And I think in this sense, they're very much keeping with that, which is a good thing. Okay, so what did you think of this latest episode of The Passage? Let me know. Comment down below. What was your favorite moment? Do you think my predictions make sense? Do you trust Martinez? I don't think you should trust Martinez, but let me know. Comment down below. And also, be sure to subscribe so that you are the first to know when I post my videos of all things horror and dark fantasy. Thanks for watching. Let's get creepy together.